Pact, and we're working today to help make sure that this meeting is running as smooth as possible here on Zoom. We will begin in just a minute here with Ms. Katinka Weinberger. I just wanted to let everyone know that this meeting will be recorded today, and I will go ahead and start the recording now. And so you should see a notification in the top left of your screen that the recording has begun. Again, this is the Regional Mechanisms for Peer Support to Voluntary National Reviews, the VNR Twinning Experience meeting. If you do have any technical support needs, you may private message myself or M using the chat feature today, and you can private message myself or M. United Nations ESCAP.
Thanks a lot, Hermes. Can everybody hear me really well?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Sound is great. Okay, good. Good morning and good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you to this HOPF side event entitled Regional Mechanisms for Peer Support and Voluntary National Reviews, the VNR Twinning Experience, which is being hosted by ESCAP together with a couple of partners. My name is Katinka Weinberger. I am the Chief of the Environment and Development Policy section. And it is my very great pleasure to welcome you all to this event. The focus of today's event is an approach that ESCAP has taken together with member states to facilitate the exchange of best practices around voluntary national reviews. And we call this approach twinning. Including with this high-level political forum, approximately 190 voluntary national reviews will have been presented since 2016, which is quite a sizable number, and many of them already are preparing their VNR for the second time. But of course, 190 voluntary national reviews does not only mean 190 presentations at the high-level political forum. Rather, that's also 190 review processes at national and sub-regional level, involving many stakeholders and producing evidence-based lessons and solutions, and then also setting the ground for a tapestry of actions that ultimately should all contribute to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. And it is this very rich process that we at ESCAP thought would be useful to facilitate an exchange on. And I'm therefore very, very pleased that we have representatives of all countries that participated in the first round of twinning, which are Georgia, Uzbekistan, Armenia, and Kyrgyzstan, today to share their experiences here with us, which will be followed by short interventions from DESA and Partners for Review. We're really, really grateful, I have to say, that all 4 countries are represented here today, as the COVID-19 pandemic is taking quite a strong toll on human resources in some of these countries. First, however, let me say that I am delighted that Dr. Amida Alisjabana, Under Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of ESCAP, will deliver opening remarks. Ibu Amida, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Katinka, for the introductory or background remarks on this event. And a very good morning to colleagues in New York, a very good afternoon, a very good evening to colleagues in the rest of the world, yeah, because I hope many participants coming from various regions. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome you to this side event organized by ESCAP in partnership with the governments, as well as the UN resident coordinators offices of Armenia, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan. We launched the first of its kind VNR twinning program back then in 2019, last year, which aimed to support the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and provide a unique opportunity to work closely with member states and UN system at the country level. The VNR's twinning program supports member states, first-timers as well as second-timers in joining forces in their national SDG strategies. And these activities are made possible through our so-called RRF, or Rapid Response Facility, which provides quick and effective response to support member states in the implementation of SDGs, including in support to VNR. So colleagues, the twinning linked two countries, one which has already presented a VNR and one country preparing its first VNR, which ideally both belonging to the same sub-region, have common development challenges and policy priorities. In this way, twinning program enables exchange of best practices, lessons learned also, and methodologies for the preparation and follow-up of a successful VNR. While in the short term, it supports preparation of the VNRs for the first time, while for the long term, our objective is to establish partnerships, to exchange best practices, lessons learned, and modalities to the follow-up and review of the 2030 agenda. In this setup, the twinning program involves governments as well as national stakeholders, such as the parliaments, parliamentarians, business community, as well as civil society. So in 2019, last year, ESCAP implemented two twinning agreements in the Asia-Pacific region between Georgia and Uzbekistan, and Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, which will be presented today in this event. The twin countries engage in a series of activities revolving around support and peer review of the VNR, including study tours, this is very interesting, connecting stakeholders to their counterparts, exchanging ideas and challenges to learn different modalities to approach the VNR support, as well as exchanges in a virtual space hosted on the ESCAP SDG Help Desk, which is now being converted to UNDS Asia Pacific SDG Gateway. So going forward, ESCAP stands ready to partner with more member states within the framework of multi-stakeholder engagement to learn from each other's best practices, lessons learned, knowledge and experiences in advancing sustainable development goals in our region, Asia Pacific. Thank you for your kind attention. I'm looking forward to a very engaging and interesting event. Thank you. Over to you, Katinka.
Thank you very much, Ibu Armida, for so succinctly setting the stage. As you emphasized, one of ESCAP's key areas of work is to provide a platform for member states to participate and to share, to learn from each other's best practices, knowledge and experiences, especially in advancing the sustainable development goals in Asia and the Pacific. And as you also emphasized, we collaborate very closely with DESA, with resident coordinators in the region, and also with sister UN agencies to align ourselves in our support to countries for SDG follow-up and review processes. So I think with this, we've very clearly set the stage, and I would now like to hand over to Ricardo Mesiano, Sustainable Development Officer at ESCAP, who will moderate the session. Over to you, Ricardo. Thank you.
Thank you, Katinka, and welcome again, all of you, to this event. I must admit, for me, is a real pleasure, an honor, a mix of feelings moderating this side event today, because I spent lots of time with our twin countries, participated in the preparation stage, in the study tour. I met all the stakeholders, and I really found lots of great enthusiasm, great ideas, innovation, and a strong intention and motivation to get this twinning working and the different countries to connect. The important thing, allow me just a short reflection of this twinning, is the fact that there is these voluntary national reviews are really a multi-stakeholder adventure, where everybody from the government, from the parliament, the private sector, the civil society are really joining forces to work together. And the great thing of the study tour was that we managed to bring representative of all the stakeholders to their counterpart and let them discuss in a formal and informal setting, being able to talk from their hearts on what they think are the challenges, what they think are the main issues, and what also where their best practices to share with their counterparts. So we had the head of the statistical office meeting with the head of the statistical offices and looking at the indicators and data, trying to understand how to identify. We had the business communities representative exchanging ideas. Same for the parliamentarians. It was a great journey, great adventure, and I think really marked these voluntary national reviews, and I really hope this could be replicated in the future. Without further ado, I would like to start our round of interaction, starting with Georgia. Ambassador Temuras Janjalia, who is the Director of International Economic Relations. I was really happy to see the great involvement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the preparation of the twinning between Uzbekistan and Georgia. I'd like to ask you, how can you describe the VNR twinning exercise from the Georgian perspective, from what you saw, from what you experienced? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and it's always a pleasure to be with you and to be part of this important virtual event. You know that Georgia is committed to implement the 2030 agenda for sustainable development, and the goal 17 is directly addressing the partnership for achieving the SDGs. I think that voluntary national reviews twinning exercise clearly fall under the goal 17. As Georgia presents its second VNR, our report will be presented by our Deputy Minister very soon, just after this meeting. It's important to mention that the country has progressively advanced towards achieving the nationally set targets. Georgia agreed to be involved in the ESCAP voluntary national review twinning exercise to share our experience, exchanging our practices and methodologies for the preparation of VNRs and follow-up of SDGs implementation. After the communication with ESCAP Secretariat and defining the goals of twinning project, study trip of delegation from our friends from Uzbekistan was organized to Georgia in November of last year. It was 4th and 7th November, and it was my pleasure to host our Uzbek friends at the premises of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Georgia. The composition of both delegations from both countries was quite diverse, and they comprised with parliamentarians, government representatives, NGOs, business circle representatives, and so on. During the study tour, delegations had the possibility to learn from each other about the steps for voluntary national reviews preparation process. Both sides also presented their cases on organization of VNRI's process and discussed timelines for their presentations. After the general discussions and seminars, there were bilateral meetings of small groups hosted by Georgian counterparts in the respective offices and some institutions. Georgian side provided information concerning the involvement of different stakeholders, including parliament and NGOs, in the process of implementing of SDGs and preparation of voluntary national reviews. National Statistics Office of Georgia provided information about the data collection and the calculation of indicators, as well as improvement and changes of methodology in order to address needs of assessment of SDGs implementation. We should to mention that program was quite successful. Georgia shared best practice and steps taken to ensure fulfillment of development goals, and Uzbekistan as well presented their case and experience. It was an excellent opportunity to establish close partnership between the national experts in preparation of voluntary national reviews. This gave us opportunity and possibility to interact with each other directly and exchange experience on common issues. I have to underline that with generous support of UNESCAP, online platform Uzbek-Georgian Voluntary National Review Exchange e-room was created on the base of SDG community of practice. And through this platform, we exchanged first drafts of our respective voluntary national reviews as follow-up of Tbilisi gathering. And during this process, we discovered that both our countries have similarities and great opportunities for cooperation. As a final remark, I would like to mention that model of cooperation is a good practice, and I think we must continue training exercises afterwards for follow-up and achievements for sustainable development goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And I really would like to reiterate again that this training exercise really, in our hope, is laying the foundation for a longer-term cooperation between the two countries. I'd like to think about this like the beginning of a long-lasting journey that can really maybe reconfirm the connection through maybe a reciprocate study tour. One day when it would be easier to travel, maybe Georgian delegates will be able to go and visit beautiful Uzbekistan, and the different stakeholders keep in touch through our platform to be able to exchange ideas for the future, because the SDG implementation beyond the presentation of the voluntary national reviews is an exercise that continues every day. And now let me just turn to your counterpart from Uzbekistan, Ms. Yulzud Duganeva from the Ministry of Economy, who's the VNR leader. I mean, is the real pen holder, the person who's behind the VNR in Uzbekistan. Madam, what was the most effective or useful part of the training for you and your country's VNR? Over to you.
Здравствуйте, уважаемые дамы и господа. Надеюсь, меня слышно? Хорошо. Я очень рада, что меня пригласили на сегодняшнее мероприятие. Очень рада видеть коллег из Грузии.
To see my colleagues from Georgia, Mr. Ricardo, and I'd like to share with you the experience that we obtained as a result of this trip to Georgia. As you know, in 2019, Uzbekistan started preparing its voluntary national review, and for that purpose, a working group was established, consisting of the national experts, also from the research institutions, and also it involved the experts from the lead ministries and other government agencies. I'd like to note that Uzbekistan, for the first time, is submitting its voluntary national review, and it's providing close support to this process. Based on the initiative of UNESCAP and the UNDP coordinator in Uzbekistan, the government was supposed to share experience with Georgia, as Georgia already has such experience, and will be submitting its VNR. So this proposal was supported. It was included in the roadmap for preparation of the VNR, approved by the Deputy Prime Minister, Chairman of the Coordination Council on SDGs. The Uzbek delegation included 12 persons, the representatives from the Ministry of Economic Development, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Health, State Statistics Committee, Project General's Office, and also Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Uzbekistan, representatives of the private sector, the media, bloggers, and NGOs. In the course of this trip, there were meetings with the MFA of Georgia, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Finance and Health, Chamber of Commerce. Also, we met with the representatives of the administration of the Georgia, and also so-called the House of Justice, the land registry, where we looked into the best practices on organization of the one-stop shop or single window centers, and various public services, including registration of the vital registration, also issuance of various certificates, and discussion of the reforms, land registration in the framework of the. This meetings became the good school for experience for both parties. We shared our experience about the issue challenges. Also, the Georgian experience was reviewed on organization of efforts for preparation of the report, development and monitoring of indicators, role of the ministries and agencies in the monitoring of SDGs. And in particular, I'd like to note that from the useful practices we liked, and we also adopted the following two important points. First is active involvement of the civil society in the implementation of the agenda until 2030. And being inspired by this experience, we organized a series of consultations on the voluntary national review with the stakeholders. In particular, in May 2020, UN office in Uzbekistan, joined with the Yuksalish National Movement and also the lower chamber of the parliament, supported us in organizing large-scale consultations with the representatives of the civil society, also organizations on the first draft report. Those first 3-day online consultations consisting of 3 groups, we convened about 400 representatives, 23 organizations, and from the regions, also the capital city of Uzbekistan. Also, in these consultations, 30 parliamentary members took part. And the second important aspect that we adopted, this is the role of the Georgian parliament in the monitoring of the implementation of SDGs. Similar to Georgia, we established a parliamentary commission on SDGs, and as a result of the parliamentary commission, civil society and the young persons and the lead national NGOs are actually involved in the efforts to promote the SDGs, including preparation and discussion of the data of the first VNR of Uzbekistan. As I already mentioned, large-scale consultations were conducted with the representatives of the civil society and organizations on the first draft report. And summing up, I can tell you that these events were useful in terms of preparing recommendations and also better coverage of the stakeholder groups and also sharing of the best practices. So, in conclusion, I can add that we need to continue organization of the twinning because, as I already mentioned, it's very important for the countries, particularly for the countries which actually are for the first time preparing the webinars, share the best practices, prevent mistakes, and develop joint recommendations. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, madam. I would like to stress one point, is that from both the countries, there was such an interest in learning from each other, and this is not automatic. There's the enthusiasm and the passion that both the group put into the connection was really remarkable. I think this is probably was one of the causes of the good results of the training. Now, let me just move on the other side and start talking a little bit more about the other training that followed after a couple of weeks, the first training from Georgia and Uzbekistan. And let me move to Armenia. I hope Mr. Arman Kachakatrian, the acting head of the Department for Multilateral Policy and Development Cooperation, is connected. Are you there, sir?
Yes, do you hear me?
So let me ask you, as a second timer, Armenia was paired with Kyrgyzstan, who was presenting for the first time. And in the spirit of the twinning peer support concept, can you share with us some of the lessons, the insights, or takeaways that the Armenian side learned from their Kyrgyz counterpart during the study tour? So usually what we say is that during a twinning, the first timers want try to learn as much as possible from the second timer. But I think it's kind of a two ways relationship. So can you tell us what Armenia learned from the training and from the Kyrgyz counterpart? Over to you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, Chair. Before answering your question at the outset, I would like to express my gratitude.
Mr. Katatrian, it sounds like your audio is not working.
Sorry? Do you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yes, so at the outset, I would like to express my gratitude to the UNESCAP for organizing this side event, especially during these days when the international community is witnessing an unprecedented global crisis triggered by the COVID pandemic. Of course, this is another opportunity to reflect on the processes of VNR and identify the key areas in which countries require additional assistance for implementation of the SDGs. Also, I would like to once again thank ESCAP and UN country team in Armenia, as well as other colleagues for their efforts and determination to implement twinning programs in our countries. Since the adoption of UN 2030 agenda, the governments, UN system, civil society, and other relevant stakeholders have come up with numerous ideas and suggestions on accelerating the SDG implementation process. However, today the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on health, education, economies, and societies are inevitable and are making additional obstacles for the progress towards achieving the SDG goals. Of course, within the given time frames. We share a conviction that only through international solidarity, recommitment to effective multilateralism and coordination that the response strategies can be effective. Armenia presented its second VNR just a couple of days ago on 10th of July, and it was despite the emergency situation in the countries and difficulties with the communication and coordination caused again COVID-19. This VNR report captured the progress made in implementing broad reform agenda of the government since 2018. We in Armenia highlight the importance of inclusiveness in the process of SDG implementation, as well as in preparation of the VNRs. The renewed Intergovernmental Council for Sustainable Development, headed by Deputy Prime Minister of Armenia, has been established with broader representation from state bodies, and currently we're working on engaging wide representation of NGOs operating in various fields such as environmental protection, poverty eradication, social protection, and etc. We intend to ensure an inclusive and collaborative endeavor between the government and the wider participatory networks. We believe that this kind of inclusiveness is important to guarantee the success of any program aimed at accelerating the SDG implementation. Armenia strongly advocates the strengthening of regional and sub-regional cooperation for the successful implementation of Agenda 2013. From this perspective, this twinning exercise was useful in terms of the exchange of those practices and methodologies for the preparation and follow-up of VNR for the VNR of Kyrgyzstan and Armenia. We believe it serves its objectives of supporting the two VNR countries to get well prepared in their VNR preparation. Last December, a study tour was organized for the Kyrgyz delegation We had an opportunity to meet here in our Yerevan partners, representatives of civil society, and to discuss questions of mutual interest. The objective of VNR twinning regarding the importance of the South-South cooperation fully coincides with Armenian standpoint. We welcome the establishment of platforms for exchanging experiences and good practices between the countries in the region, especially taking into account the historical background, similarity, and mutual vision for better future. As the whole process of the VNR, the twinning program identified some gaps and challenges that should be overcome by the next review. One of the main lessons learned during this year's experience is that the countries engaged in the twinning programs need to establish kind of institutional framework to have a regular contacts between respective counterparts in the process. I'm hopeful that twinning programs between Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, as well as Georgia and Uzbekistan, will pave the way for creating enhanced partnership and stimulate sectoral cooperation to achieve SDG targets on time. As a second-time presenter, Armenia stands ready to share its experience on VNR preparation. And as Ambassador Janjania mentioned already, we also think that this twinning exercise was a good one, and we are ready to continue for the next time. And as far as concerning your question you raised, of course, this twinning exercise should be kind of two-side exercises, and we are a second-time country. Kyrgyzstan was a first-time country, so we also need some experience, so we also find that it's very important to have this twinning exercise, and we also learned much from our Kyrgyz colleagues. For the moment, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The important thing is really thinking in terms of sustainability also of the cooperation and of the connection between the two countries. Let's remember that it's not easy for anyone preparing a report in challenging circumstances, and probably this experience and the submission of the final draft of the report in these times of in this era of COVID might really help to become more resilient and make it better and brighter for next time. Let me move now to your counterpart, which is Kyrgyzstan, and it's really a great pleasure to have Honorable Abdidabab Nubayev, which is the head of the Parliament SDG Working Group. Kyrgyzstan is one of the pioneer countries where the parliaments, the national parliament established an SDG standing committee. Sir, you participated in the twinning, and we were very happy about it. And I'd like to ask you, how is the Parliamentary Working Group on the Sustainable Development Goals planning to use the VNR findings and process in its work? Over to you.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Я рад всех приветствовать от имени парламента Кыргызской Республики.
It's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Parliament of the Kyrgyz Republic and also the Kyrgyz Working Group for promotion of SDGs. And I'd like to also thank the UNESCAP for facilitating this meeting. For Kyrgyzstan, experience in preparing the VNR is, as it is the first experience, the document was prepared for nearly the year, and certainly challenges were identified with the subsequent steps to address them. Last year, representatives of the Parliament of the Kyrgyz Republic were involved in sharing experience in the drafting the VNR. Our delegation went to learn the Armenian experience, and we had held meetings with the civil society representatives, with the Parliament, the Ministry of Economy, Migration Service, Statistics Committee, which enabled to compare the experience of Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, and also experience of the establishment of the innovative laboratory, as well as the appropriate modules have been compared based on the results of the this study tour, we have identified those best experiences that we could implement in Kyrgyzstan. For example, the laboratories that we visited in Armenia for public service innovations, to implement innovative methods in training. In general, study tour was very productive, and certainly we had many plans upon coming back to Kyrgyzstan, but because of the onset of pandemics, which obviously made us to adjust many of our plans. And certainly now, response to the pandemic is in the forefront of the agenda in not only in Kyrgyzstan, but in also neighboring Central Asian countries. Speaking shortly about the preparation of the VNR, members of the working group have been informed about the process a number of times in the process of preparation of this document. Certainly, we were planning to discuss it in a broad format. And pandemics, as I said, made many adjustments in our plans. Now we just can hope that the pandemic will retreat, and so that we could meet not only in the online format but also face-to-face and discuss our subsequent steps according to the particularly with regards to our legislation. And we also need to make our contribution into implementation of the SDGs. And also many challenges have been identified. And the Parliament certainly can be involved in the process of addressing these challenges. And certainly we'd like to look into the experience of the involved of the parliaments, and also look into the experience of how the parliaments are involved in similar processes. Currently, we are designating our rapporteurs, and we hope that the Kyrgyzstan will be able to present its first VNR in a decent form. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It's always a pleasure hearing you sharing your perspective. I like to highlight one of the experiences of this training, that was when the Kyrgyz delegation was invited to attend the hearing at the Armenian Parliament of the Prime Minister. I think this was really a moment of extremely important to really understand how much internal politics can affect and mark the preparation of the voluntary national reviews. Whenever there is a strong high-level political commitment, it is always easier to proceed with the implementation and the reporting. Thank you again, sir. And the experience of the SDG committee within the Kyrgyz parliament is really case studies that we hope more and more countries will replicate. It was good to have a first overview of the twinning exercise from the 4 countries. I'd like now to turn to the first of our discussant, which is my good friend Sarah Changwat from DESA, New York, Interregional Advisor on Sustainable Development Goals. Sarah has a great experience across different regions in supporting the voluntary national reviews in the countries. Sarah, hearing about this twinning, what is your first reaction, reflection you want to share? Also thinking about other experience on VNRs that you have been supporting until now, and possible perspective or application for the future within the Asia and the Pacific region and other regions in the world. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ricardo, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about the twinning program. In particular, ESCAP twinning program is a really good example of an initiative that supports peer learning. I think peer learning is a mechanism that should undergird the VNR process, particularly in the absence of any formal recommendations or concluding observations at the HLPF. because of the voluntary collaborative nature of VNR reporting, this peer program is really very useful. It has been said that the VNR process allows insufficient follow-up and very little space for countries to go beyond their own national context and have international or global input into the process. And I think that the twinning program really at the regional level in particular is designed to address some of these issues. And I have to say that the twinning process has been replicated at many levels as a good practice in many different countries, some of which I will discuss below. But I want to just make 4 very brief points. The first point is that the twinning process is supported through the VNR SG guidelines. It specifically supports the notion of twinning or peer learning through the VNRs, both in its preparation and implementation phases. So the VNR guidelines provide that countries should include an analysis of areas where the country would need support. And the guidelines say, quote, that it is hoped that this would lead to mobilizing support through international cooperation and continued collaboration or twinning with one or more countries. The guidelines also say that because time for presentation at the HLPF is limited, countries may wish to consider a number of options, including, and again I quote, working informally with other presenting countries in advance to compare review processes and findings, for example, voluntary twinning for peer learning. So it's very much rooted in the SG guidelines. But there are other structures and processes designed to encourage twinning. For example, the shared review panels with countries twinning for mutual peer review at the HLPF, and exchanging lessons learned and good practices during, before, and after the VNR presentations. But it's also important to remember that the twinning process should continue and has continued in many countries after the VNR has been presented, and that good practice examples can be shared for ongoing collaboration and implementation of the 2030 agenda. My second point is that the twinning program encourages a greater degree of peer learning, engagement, and interaction amongst countries. Excuse me. More peer learning is something that countries often identify as one of the elements missing in their VNR preparation and implementation processes. So in the political declaration of the SDG summit held last year, all heads of state, in a very short document, heads of state resolved to further strengthen the effective and participatory character of the HLPF and, quote, encourage the peer learning character of the voluntary national reviews. Now, at the regional level, peer learning is particularly important because countries share similar issues. It encourages regional strength, it encourages unity, and it ensures that common solutions can be found. Twinning arrangements are also a way to facilitate capacity building. That's my second point. My third point is that the peer learning or twinning process works ideally in a regional context, like the Asia-Pacific region, because many neighboring countries have similar challenges, but the twinning process is going beyond regional borders. So, for example, in Finland's latest VNR, as you know, the preparation process also included peer learning with the governments of Mozambique and Switzerland, reviewing the draft report and sharing their views. The government of Germany's next VNR includes a revision of the National Sustainable Development Strategy in line with the SDGs, followed by 3 international reviews to inform Germany's second VNR in 2021. And I'm sure that Jörn will talk about it a little bit in his focus after mine. Germany's review in 2018 included a review by a number of countries, including New Zealand, Belgium, South Africa, Norway, Finland, Switzerland, and so on. Enhancing the independence of the evaluation progress would be an important improvement. So while the spirit of South-South cooperation, which is very much part of the twinning program at ESCAP, while it would be an important contribution, a more global twinning and peer learning process is also developing. A group of Friends of VNRs has also been launched. This was launched last year, which is ready to support the preparation of the interactive discussion following a country's VNR presentation of the HLPF. This process is, as you will know, led by Mexico. And so all of this supports the more ongoing twinning process that's happening at the global level. The final point that I want to make before I conclude is that examples of similar programs exist throughout the world, whether it's part of the VNR process or not. The reverse linkages program is a technical cooperation mechanism introduced by the Islamic Development Bank. The reverse linkages program facilitates the transfer of knowledge and expertise, as well as the sharing of best practices amongst Organization of Islamic Cooperation member states. The reverse linkages program is considered a valuable peer-to-peer self-cooperation modality with a win-win, as they call it, cooperation arrangement for all partnering institutions. The Pacific Island Forum has also an established framework and track record of peer reviews of its members. To conclude, I just wanted to highlight a few recommendations that I think could be considered to increase the peer learning and twinning program. We could consider maybe twinning at the local level. We could consider twinning arrangements for implementation of the 2030 agenda, which goes beyond just the preparation of the report. We could consider cross-regional twinning. We could consider organization of more than 2 countries in the twinning arrangement. We could consider documenting in a more formal way the lessons learned and the good practices that comes from the twinning process. And finally, I just wanted to point out, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, that the involvement of sub-regional organizations could also be considered so as to broaden the impact and build support for the 2030 agenda and the SDGs. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Saras, and thank you really for the recommendations. I think twinning at the local level and expanding the nature of the twinning, formalizing the lesson learned, these are all great ideas that we will definitely take into consideration. But I think what is important to notice is really the fact that the twinning program needs to be out there, needs to be expanded and promoted and replicated as much as possible. And this through support of DESA, the Regional Commission, and I would say also Partners for Review. And this leads us to my next discussion, Jörn, from Partner for Reviews, which is this amazing network created to help countries interacting, exchanging lesson learned ideas, and really working as a great experience of connection for the SDG implementation and the review of the agenda. Jörn, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Ricardo. Thanks also for the invitation to speak at the side event. Yes, as you mentioned, I work for Partners for Review, an international network really dedicated to SDG review and follow-up, set up by the German government and implemented by GIZ. And yeah, in a way, it's a big twinning program, the Partners for Review. But mostly we organize regular network meetings where people really from all over the globe, from different stakeholder groups, come together to share their experiences concerning voluntary national reviews, but also more broadly with regards to SDG review and follow-up. And more recently, we also started experimenting with similar programs like the twinning program. Earlier this year, we facilitated a peer exchange between 3 countries, between Belize, Costa Rica, and Georgia in Costa Rica. All countries were conducting their second VNR in 2020, and they used this opportunity to learn from each other. And we also plan similar exchanges for next year, though probably virtually, and possibly also peer exchanges on follow-up, as was pointed out rightly, that this is a process that should go beyond the VNR. I think generally speaking, we have observed that there's really a rising demand for peer learning concerning the 2030 agenda and SDG review in particular, both during our own meetings, but also during many other international meetings. Participants frequently mention the need for more such kind of peer exchanges, peer reviews, or similar initiatives. And therefore, I really believe that the twinning program is a very timely initiative that meets the demand of countries that wish to conduct effective VNRs and more broadly to strengthen their SDG governance and governance mechanisms. to implement the agenda. And therefore, I would like to congratulate both ESCAP and the participating countries, the pioneers, so to speak, for your achievements. Based on our own experiences with peer exchanges and what I've heard so far about the twinning program, I see at least 3 elements of the twinning program that I think have contributed to its success. Firstly, engaging multiple stakeholders. You not only include governments, who of course lead the conduction of the VNR, but you also included civil society, the private sector, and parliament, amongst others. And this is of course very much in line with the spirit of the agenda. And I really believe it contributes to the quality of the exchange by allowing these different perspectives to be heard and considered jointly. I think it also contributes to understanding better other stakeholders groups' views and their experiences, and thereby I think it lays the foundation for multi-stakeholder dialogue and partnerships in the countries themselves, which I think is really an important prerequisite for achieving the agenda and the SDGs. In our own peer exchange, we had an unexpected benefit, which I can imagine also occurred during the twinning program, that when we brought together these different stakeholders from 3 countries, a number of people pointed out that actually was very helpful that even the stakeholders from the same country, they had the opportunity to engage much more in depth during the 3-day meeting that we had organized than they would normally have the opportunity back home. So this was something that we didn't plan. I mean, we thought of the benefit of meeting participants from other countries, but they said that in addition to that, they really found it very useful to meet the different stakeholder groups from their own country, not just in a short meeting back home, but in a really in-depth exchange. I think a second crucial element of the twinning program is the dialogue among peers from the same stakeholder group. From what I understand, you did not only organize these multi-stakeholder exchanges, but also you provided a time slot where the participants from one stakeholder group could engage with each other. And I think this is also very helpful because each stakeholder group, of course, they have their particular interests and concerns, and it's helpful to learn from peers from other countries how they deal with these similar issues, but in different circumstances. And sometimes I think it also simply helps to understand that the same stakeholder group in other countries, they face similar challenges, and one is not alone in tackling them. A third element that has contributed to this success, it seems, has been the on-site visits. I think when designed well, engaging on-site with host institutions really adds another element to the peer exchange, not just talking together in a conference room, but really going to a host institution and engaging with them allows for more direct contact and really understanding an institution's work in much greater detail than is otherwise possible. I think it also helps to better understand the local context within which an institution is functioning, which can, among other things, help to understand why a particular measure has been drawn up, why is it working or why is it not working. And finally, I would like to draw your attention to one potential contribution of the twinning program and similar peer exchange formats that I think so far has not been materialized. I think the HLPF is really meant to be a forum for the sharing of best practices and mutual learning. And while the country presentations are generally becoming more sophisticated each year, and by the way, really congratulations to the Armenian presentation last Friday, which I think was really excellent. The exchange at the HLPF, I think, could really benefit from a joint panel presentation by 2 or more countries, especially if they have engaged in a peer exchange before that. I think such a peer exchange or study tour like the twinning program provides really allows participants to appreciate the challenges and successes of other countries much better. And in that course, they can identify common challenges as well as factors that contribute to overcoming these challenges. I believe that sharing such aggregated insights of a higher order in a way. At the HLPF would be of great benefit to member states and could really contribute to further elevating the deliberations at the HLPF. With that, I thank you for the attention and congratulate ESCAP again for initiating the twinning program and organizing this side event. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jörn. And absolutely, you're right. The twinning is important. That really can go beyond the preparation, also at the presentation level. COVID came because in the good intention of the 4 twin countries, it was also discussed really to have a joint presentation at the high-level political forum. This being organized in New York, on site, in person, with a little bit more time of organizing. The pandemic challenge, I think, managed also to affect the last mile of the presentation of this twinning, which again I think is still very resilient, and it can promise to be developed even more. Now, thank you also to our discussions. I'd like to open for a little bit of discussion and interaction with our participants and our audience. You can ask questions for those who are connected in the Zoom link by raising your hand or writing your question in the chat box. For those who are instead connected through our YouTube link, you can also ask a question in our chat box in the YouTube link. On this note, we received one question on the YouTube, and the question is, does UNESCO partner with other institutions in this twinning exercise? Multilateral institution promoting regional cooperation may help reach out to countries to exchange VNR good practices. That's a great question. I like my colleague Katinka to answer on that, and I just leave it to you, Katinka, for your answer. Over.
Thank you very much, Ricardo, and also to the person who's asked the question. Indeed, partnering is a very important element for us at ESCAP, and just to say at the outset that we did already partner in every country that we worked in with the resident coordinators in their offices, and this provided a really important pathway for us to understand the specificities of each country better and to be able to really tailor in the best possible way our support. We have, and Sarah had already mentioned that, also worked with sub-regional offices. For example, we have collaborated with the Pacific Island Forum Secretariat in their support to facilitate an exchange between a past VNR country, a current VNR country, and a future VNR country. In that specific case, it was Vanuatu, Samoa, and Papua New Guinea. Going forward, I mean, of course, developing a VNR is a multidimensional process from many angles, and therefore it is useful to bring in many different perspectives. So we're very open to collaborate going forward. We're actually currently looking in our particular sub-region here based in Bangkok, and many countries in our immediate neighborhood which have already undertaken a voluntary national review. So ASEAN is obviously one of the sub-regional organizations that comes to mind. We are also exploring other opportunities on the South Asian continent. So an open invitation in a way to reach out to us and to collaborate together with us in this particular area. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you so much, Katinka, for answering the question. In our introductory remarks, we were quite explicit in thanking a partner without which the twinning would have not been possible. And these partners are the resident coordinator offices in the 4 countries. Let me move to the resident coordinator in Georgia, Sabine Machel. I think, Sabine, the importance of the UN resident coordinator system in the region, but also at the national level for in the support to the Sustainable Development Goals implementation is key. And definitely this has been also instrumental and very important in the in this particular twinning. Can you just share your perspective on the twinning, on the importance and also the specific role that the UN country team and the UN system has played and is playing in Georgia for the implementation of the SDGs. Sabine, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. And it was great to listen. Thank you for the invitation. Really good to hear the experiences and also that it was very useful for the countries in this twinning exercise. We as the country team here in Georgia, we were very happy to support it from our side, firstly administratively and also logistically. As Ambassador Kalmuras already mentioned, there was the visit, the study visit from Uzbekistan, the Uzbek delegation who came to Georgia. And we were really also very happy to work throughout, also specifically with the Prime Minister's office on the preparations of the VNR. As many of you have said, it's a very multidimensional exercise. We have worked a lot on the different TORs and also helped with some of the methodology. And also all our different agencies have actually then also commented on the VNRs, have come in as well. It was a very collaborative effort. And I think it is extremely important, to continue on that path. And definitely as the country team, we are very happy, that we had this excellent cooperation also with Georgia on this. And I've taken good notes also of all the recommendations that have come out from the discussion right now. And basically, we definitely stand ready in the different countries and also as the teams to really support this exercise. I really would also like to congratulate all of you in participating in this twinning. The Georgian VNR is coming up next, as the ambassador has already mentioned after this meeting. So I'm also looking forward to listening into the discussion there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabine. And another, all the again, and I would like really to quickly hear from all the resident coordinator offices because they were very strong partners of this training. So I'd like to move to another resident coordinator office in Kyrgyzstan, my friend Katya, who is temporarily, I understand, in Russia because the situation is not great with the COVID-19. Katya, the preparatory process for the twinning in Kyrgyzstan was very well dealt from your office. There was lots of engagement, and I would like to ask you, what were the main challenges maybe in bringing together all the different stakeholders of that participated in the study tour and then follow the VNR process, and the main lessons learned that led to the team in bringing their forces together for the preparation of the VNR. Katya, over to you.
Thank you, Ricardo. Let me thank ASCAP once again and the UNRC office in Armenia for helping us organize the twinning, and special thanks for piloting this whole modality successfully in the region. In terms of lessons learned, I would say first, and again, thanks to ASCAP for emphasizing this, it was important to get representatives of different stakeholder groups in the room so that our delegation included government, parliament, civil society representatives, and etc. So if a new country wants to engage into twinning, I would really recommend getting at least one representative for different stakeholder groups. And when we were in the twinning tour, so I think my observation was that when the group, the delegation goes together to meet different counterparts, it's also very useful, so that it's not just a collection of bilateral meetings where, you know, for instance, statistical office meets statistical office from the other side, but also going there as a group and reflecting back from their own experience, from their own role in the country policy making. Another observation that I had is that the delegation itself, our delegation was consist of different partners. They learned, I think, from each other also a lot during the study tour. So it helped them, I think, create bridges and create better mutual understanding of what it really takes to work together as different stakeholders on the SDGs and the VNR. So I guess for us, it's also a good lesson learned. And there was a lot of preparation, and a lot of preparation, I think, is in understanding what the needs of the stakeholders are from both countries, because countries are not in the same pace, especially if you take one country that is already experienced with the VNR and another one that is just new. So for us, it was important to understand what exactly, at this point in time, what exactly our counterparts wanted to learn and how we can match those learning needs with what the other country can offer. So that's a lot of work, I think, for the UN offices as well, to really dig deep into this needs and have conversation with partners. I think twinning in general is a very good opportunity for stakeholders to get ownership of the SDGs, because they get an opportunity to represent their whole stakeholder group during the twinning and exchange experience on behalf of the stakeholder group. So I would say I think they come back more empowered and with a better sense of ownership and motivation to be part of the process. Another lesson learned, I think that it's really important to help counterparts follow up after the study tour on the connections they made on different arrangements. So the online platform is important there. Unfortunately, I think what happened specifically this year is that COVID hit everyone, and I think our process was really derailed by it. So we hope to do better next time. I really hope that we will be engaging more into twinning in the future, and hopefully also as part of the follow-up and review mechanism, seeing how we can take our VNRs forward. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much, Katya. You were mentioning, of course, the twinning and the importance of connecting with your counterparts. I think there was a very good exchange and cooperation with the resident coordinator office in Armenia. We have connected Babken Gregorian, who actually he joined the resident coordinator office after spending some time as in the government as a deputy minister. So he had somehow both the vision and the experience from the government side connected to the UN side. And of course, he was really instrumental in bringing together all the partners. And another thing that he did was getting the SDG task force in Armenia to really cooperate and collaborate in the design of the new voluntary national reviews. Babken, how much did the twinning and the study tour impacted and contributed for the preparation and the support provided by the UN system to the government for the preparation of this second voluntary national review? Over to you, Babken.
Thank you, Ricardo. And first of all, thank you to UN SCAP for organizing both the twinning and the side event. I think Armenia was in a really good position to act as a pilot for this first twinning exercise. I think the twinning, especially the study tour, the value of it became more apparent as we progressed in our VNR engagement with government, because as the process moved forward, we were able to sort of make references to the various conversations and the various consultations that are taking place during the study tour. So in a sense, we really only saw the value of it as we look back to the study tour, as opposed to at the time, perhaps I think there might have been a little bit of unclarity on how this was going to pan out, especially in Armenia. As you know, Armenia was in a unique situation this year. It was Armenia's second VNR, but especially after the Velvet Revolution of 2018, there was a change of government, and this led to a new transformed approach to the VNR, which I think departed for the better from the experience of the first report. And I think if you actually look at between the two reports, you can see a qualitative and a substantive change, and a much bigger ambition in the reforms that were being undertaken. So this is with regards to the conversations with our government counterparts. But also there was a big value in engaging with our colleagues from the UN RCO and I believe UNDP office in Kyrgyzstan, who were part of the study tour. On the UNCT side, we were able to spend some time discussing both the VNR process, but more broadly also the SDG nationalization process and how the UN system in Armenia can best position itself to support Armenia as it relaunches its SDG nationalization process. And in this sense, I think the twinning came at a very opportune time for us, because Armenia was at the early stages of relaunching its SDG nationalization process and the institutionalization with the new SDG Council. And it was especially important to discuss how best to not just adopt a national framework for SDGs, but actually incorporate as part of national planning processes. And finally, I think one aspect that the study tour really brought to light was the crucial role of parliament. You know, Armenia is a parliamentary republic now, but it's only in the past 2 years that we've become a parliamentary republic. So in many ways, we're still sort of trying to better understand the role that parliament can play, both in oversight and in support of the SDG nationalization and the VNR process. And they, both during the study tour and afterwards, we were able to engage with our parliamentary counterparts to support in the report drafting, and now they are also going to be part of the SDG Council, and in parallel, a separate SDG group is being discussed to be set up in Parliament. So I think all of these were a result, intended or unintended, of the study tour. I think perhaps an unexpected outcome was, I think for our government counterparts, this value added for the bilateral discussions that actually took place between the Armenia and Kyrgyzstan government members and delegation members in terms of strengthening Kyrgyzstan-Armenia relations. So I recall that especially in discussions with the Ministry of Economy, in addition to talking about the VNR and the SDGs, they also were discussing certain agenda items within the Eurasian Economic Union, and also in Parliament with the parliamentary friendship.
I think we might have lost Babken. Might be a connection problem. I mean, I hope we will be able to reconnect later. I'd like to conclude my tour of partners from the Resident Coordinate Office with Uzbekistan and Hello, Zarif. Zarif, I would like to ask you. It was really interesting to get some insight on one big part of the twinning, which was this connection through the study tour. But then afterward, another big part of the twinning was this online platform that ESCAP created for countries to keep on the relationship to run, right? So asking questions, posting ideas, and from Uzbekistan there was a high participation in the platform. I'd like to ask you, how do you value the creation of the continuation of this cooperation through the online platform? Was it a nice continuation of the meeting in person? Is there anything you would like to share as a lesson learned on how to make it better, to make it more friendly user? Over to you, Zarif.
Thanks a lot, Ricardo, and greetings from Tashkent. And first of all, I'd like to use this opportunity to thank you, Ricardo, UNESCAP, and our Georgian counterparts, Mikhail, David, and also Your Excellency, the Ambassador Telmuraz. It's been a great pleasure to be part of this great exercise, and I'm really honored to speak on behalf of RCO today. So coming to your question, Ricardo, on the VNR platform, on the platform for exchange of information between the participating counterparts, between Georgian and Uzbek counterparts. Yes, there was indeed a big participation of Uzbek counterparts in that platform. The thing is that, like our counterpart has mentioned, Madam Yıldız Abduganieva, there was a great interest from the Uzbek counterparts to learn from the Georgian experience. Not only there was a great interest, but also the follow-up from the twinning exercise was indeed a significant one, because we included a lot of counterparts, including from the media, bloggers. Many of them followed up with the articles on the Georgian experience. So we shared the links to these articles via the platform. Obviously, we could sense that there was a lot of interest in the Georgian experience of reforms in the governance area, and participants from the Uzbek side were very keen to share the experience they learned and also to get feedback from Georgian counterparts. Maybe as a suggestion to liven up the platform, there was obviously a language barrier for some of the participants. Not many participants could speak either Russian or English from the Uzbek side, but at least maybe a Russian translation could facilitate this dialogue, the exchange of views through that platform in the future. So that aspect maybe should be taken into account for the future interactions and future twinning exercises. That's it, I think, from my side. Over, thanks.
Thank you so much, Zarif. I know Babken is back for a 1-minute conclusion for his intervention. Babken, can you? Babken, are you there?
Yes. Apologies for that. I'm not sure what happened there. I think just to conclude, I would add that this exercise is extremely valuable and can only enhance the VNR process, especially if both countries can continue their engagement as they move forward. And I think for Armenia's experience, it showed that it helped actually restart and jumpstart a lot of the processes that were already underway. And with this, I think I would like to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Babken. Now, let me just move on the other side of the world. Our sister regional commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC. We have our colleagues Maria Ortiz Perez connected from Santiago de Chile. And Maria, let me ask you, now you heard about this twinning program, and we also heard from our interregional advisor from this and partner for you. How replicable is this twinning program for countries for your part of the world, for your region? Is it something you have been the country has been asking, or is it something which would be completely new for the region? Over to you.
Hi, Ricardo and colleagues. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for that question. I have been following with a lot of interest this experience because I do think that it's very replicable here in Latin America and the Caribbean. One of the key aspects that Katerina mentioned is that the difference in experiences in countries. And here in Latin America, most countries have already presented at least once. And in the Caribbean, they are also starting to present. So I do see a lot of potential on finding countries that are experiencing similar challenges in working together towards implementing the VNR. In Latin America and the Caribbean so far, where we have the approach that we have taken is creating community of practices. So perhaps the twinning is not as in depth as what we have heard today, but we are creating spaces for informal dialogue. These community of practices are at the technical level. And we create a constant opportunity for the people on the technical teams who are working in the VNRs to discuss what challenges what common challenges they are facing while they are preparing the VNR. So we have sessions on stakeholder engagement, on data, on integrating the SDGs into development plans and how to reflect that on the VNR. So the goal is to engage some key people in the technical teams on an ongoing dialogue so they can provide each other with this peer support that is so needed when you are preparing such a complex project as a VNR. And I do see that the twinning experience could be a very nice complement to this community of practice that has taken shape in this region. So I'm very, very thankful for this event and for all the speakers from sharing their experiences. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Maria. Extremely important. The intervention was really appreciated because, again, we think the real connection of experiences across region, across countries can really push this implementation forward. We only have 8 minutes before the conclusion of this side event, and we will all connect for the HLPF. I would like, before concluding, to go back for just 1 minute to our main speakers, and just for a final reflection on the twinning or some ideas for the future. So I will start again the tour for 1 minute. Ambassador Temuras from Georgia. Just a 1 minute final reflection. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Ricardo. So it's really a pleasure, really, just to have this minute, because what we have seen today, we have seen that we have an excellent practice already established, and we can exchange our practices, information between us, and to give some opportunities to other countries as well to share their experiences. So what we have seen as well, that there is a willingness and enthusiasm from the governmental sector, from parliament, from non-governmental organizations, just to be involved in the process. What we have seen as well, that civil society is really active on this matter, and in our case, so we have seen in Tbilisi how civil society was involved in the twinning project, and how they will wishing just to have this dialogue with our Uzbek partners. And of course, I would like just to touch the topic of this e-room, because it's really important, and it was really good for our institutions as well, through the e-channels, just to deliver messages, to share experience, to ask the questions, and it was really important for everybody. So thank you very much for this, and I will continue, and I will repeat myself that it's important to continue this process. It's important to continue the twinning exercise, and I do hope that in the future we will meet not only online but personally, and we will share our experiences on a sustainable development goal implementation process. So thank you again. Thank you, Ricardo, for everything. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to speak today, and I hope, as I have mentioned already, for the future meetings and for future interactions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. And again, thank you for your great support for the twinning. Uzbekistan, Ms. Yulzud, your 1 minute intervention, I'd like to ask you, what is the advice you would give to a country interested in a twinning? Over to you. You are muted.
Ваш микрофон выключен. Once again, we'd like to express our appreciation to the Georgian party for the very warm welcome last year, and also thank you, Ricardo, for organizing that wonderful study trip. It was indeed very helpful from the perspective of sharing experience, and we, as I had mentioned, for ourselves, we have learned a great deal, and we have implemented a number of lessons learned. So what else we'd like to propose for such twinning programs? To enhance the effectiveness of such activities, perhaps you could invite the partner countries to the discussions with the parliaments, with the civil societies. This would serve for the better exchange of experience, and it will help to better understand the processes which are underway in other countries, and again, to learn about the challenges which exist in other countries. This would be very helpful from my perspective, from perspective of the person who was involved in such process of preparation of VNRs.
Thank you so much again. Armenia, Ambassador Arman, how do we take this twinning forward? So what is your wish and your suggestion? How do we take the twinning between Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, but also the program forward? Over to you.
Thank you. So thank you again, all participants, all colleagues, all speakers. And now, as we understand, there is more or less consensus that twinning exercise was successful, was useful. And in this regard, I have 2 points. First, what will be next? Twinning should continue after VNR. And also, do we need more formats for peer exchange and also on follow-up, not just for VNR preparation and presentation, but also for follow-up. That's the first point, and we are interested to have a new kind of, that might be twinning or other formats for this peer exchange, exchange of best practices, lesson learned, and etc. And second point is this important aspect of all this, that's cross-regional cooperation. Of course, South-South cooperation is also well in line with our Armenian position. We are happy to cooperate with our Kyrgyz partners, but we are also open for cross-regional learning, cross-regional practice exchanges with other parts of the world, be the Pacific Forum or Latin America. So concluding, we think that this twinning exercise was successful, and we should find some follow-up exercises. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And really would like to conclude this tour with Honorable Nurbayev, who has been such an inspiration for his commitment, his enthusiasm. And I would just like to ask him what did this VNR twinning leave as a legacy in the country, and how would you want to use this for the future in Kyrgyzstan? Over to you. You're muted.
Для нас было это очень важно и очень.
For us, it was essential. It was very helpful because Kyrgyzstan had not submitted its VNR before. So we reviewed the Armenian experience, which was a very good, positive experience. So they impressed us. And we were well pleased to have that experience. And we are thankful to the UNDP representatives for supporting us. So it should be continued in the future. So I'd like to have more such experience.
Thank you so much, sir. We reached 8 o'clock. It's time to move to the plenary of the HLPF, and it was a real pleasure to have you all, our speakers, our partners. Many thanks to the interpreters and to all the participants who had time to join us in this discussion. The VNR twinning is still active as a program. We are very happy to work with countries within the region, cross region. Just let us know how we can support you. Let us know how we can make the program better. And let's really join our forces in this period of challenge for everybody, because it will be really the key to move forward, twinning, sharing, joining forces, and be together in this endeavor. Many thanks to everyone, and I really hope I'll see you all in person very soon. Thank you so much.